The legendary chess match this time featured an interesting match between Mikhail Tal and Klaman that occurred in 1959. In this game, Mikhail Tal holds white and Klaman holds black. The game opens with the Sicilian Defense opening. So let's start the game. Pawn e4, black pawn c5. Knight f3, replied knight c6. Pawn d4 threatens the pawn and the pawn catches the pawn. The white knight catches the pawn and at the same time invites the exchange of the knight. Black led the threat with black knight move to f6, attacks the pawn. Knight c3 escorts the pawn and pawn d6 opens the diagonal file bright bishop. Dark bishop g5 attacks the knight. Black ignores the bishop's attack by stepping his bright bishop to d7. Queen advances to d2. Knight catches the knight. The queen catches the knight. The black queen a5 pins the knight. Bishop catches knight. Pawn catches the bishop. White activates the rook by doing a castling. Black rook c8 makes an inline threat against the white king. White pawn f4. Black rook g8 attacks g2's pawn to support another rook's attack. White blocks that goal by advancing pawn g2 to g3. Black pawn e6, leaving f3 pawn as bait for the queen to capture. White doesn't eat the bait but starts activating his bright bishop by jumping to h3, pinning a pawn. The black queen c5 pitted the queen. However, Tal refused by moving his queen to d2. The black pawn b5 prepares advances to b4, threatening the knight. Rook e1 maintains control of the e file while threatening a discovered attack on the king. Black stays on the original goal with advancing the pawn to b4, threatening the knight. White knight retreats to e2, black queen c4, creating a fork attack on a pawn as well as an unavoidable checkmate threat at a1. The white king b1 protects the pawn. The black queen captures the white pawn at e4. White knight d4, rook's discovering attack against the queen. Queen avoids threat by retreating to d7. Queen d3, guarding b3 square while simultaneously attacking h7's pawn. Dark black bishop e7, creating a layered defense of the king. After several steps in positioning, this time Tal began to attack with the queen capturing the pawn on h7 and threats against the rook. Black rook evades the threat by stepping into f8. Bishop g4, a move deemed to have no threat, so black queen c7 prepares for a direct attack on the pawn. The king avoids an attack on a1. Black pawn f5 threatens the bishop and opens the f6 square for the bishops to occupy. However, as is the habit of Tal in every game, he always makes unexpected moves. Instead of the bishop dodging the threat of the pawn, the bishop catches the pawn that threatens it, and in return, the bishop is captured by the pawn. But this move resulted in the king's defense being exposed, and that's the point of the bishop step forward to g4, proven by the next white's shocking move. The rook catches the bishop. Check. The king captures the rook. Again countered with the rook attack d1 to e1. Check. The king dodged to d8. Attack again by queen h4, check. No choice but pawn moves to f6, closing the check. Can't attack the king, the white attacks the officer, so the queen h6 attacks the rook as well as a checkmate threat. Black queen a5 gives the king escape plot. Let's analyze this step. If the rook avoids the threat by going to f7, then the queen will check on h8. Bishop closes check and bishop is coached by the queen. Checkmate. That's why the queen moved to a5 to provide the king's escape plot, sacrificing the rook and at the same time preparing the queen's counterattack at e2 or capturing the rook at e1 after the pawn advances to b3. However, Tal recognized this move and he anticipated it by preempting the b3 square with a knight jump, as well as attacking the queen. The queen avoided threats to d5. The white queen captures the unguarded rook, check. The king runs to c7. Queen captures a pawn. Rook e8 invites a rook swap and a one-step checkmate threat. The rook refuses the exchange by moving to c1 and a check plan after the pawn advances to c3. The black bishop a4 threatens the knight. The white queen d4 pits the queen, but the black queen refuses by retreating to b7. Rook d1. Check support by queen by capturing pawn in d6. Rook e6 protects the pawn. However, this rook step was a fatal decision. The white queen c4 check and threatens the rook. The king shifts to d8. Let's analyze this step. If the king moves to d7 guarding the rook, it will be rewarded with a knight jump to c5. Check and the black queen will be gone. That is why this black rook must be let go to maintain the queen's existence. Therefore, the king steps to d8. The queen captured the rook and black declared surrender. Black gave up because in terms of position and quality, white is in a far superior position.